So I guess I don't really have to do introductions, right? Like, but for those, the uninitiated, somewhere maybe back in the back corner of the room, Alexis Ohanian is the co-founder of Reddit, the founder and general partner of 776 Ventures, and he's redefining venture capital through technology and investing in women's sports and mission-driven innovation. 776 manages $1 billion in assets. Do I got that right?
1.2, but I'm not counting.
1.2. All right, I love it. And Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl champion, entrepreneur, and philanthropist.
What's up?
Whose many ventures include Good Man Brand, 3Brand, and the Why Not You Foundation, all of which blend performance, purpose, and impact. And 3Brand, do I have this right, surpassed 100 million in 2024 sales and 70 million in the first half of 2025. Do I have that right?
We've done 400 million in 4 years, roughly.
Let's
135 this year.
Amazing.
So it's been good.
And so
I'm not at 1.2 billion yet, but we're
you've been
gaining
busy.
ground. We're gaining
You've been
ground.
busy.
Yeah. But so, I mean, we've got like 2 folks on the stage. We've got like 6, 7, a dozen ventures between you. It's a lot. So first of all, I guess one thing I wanted to ask about is both of the main companies that you're working with these days have kind of a very purpose-driven mission. And this is a moment where many companies are maybe struggling with, should we be purpose-driven? What is the point of being purpose-driven? Certainly there's criticism from some quarters, some investors about that. So I'm curious, why is it so important for you to build companies that have a real purpose and a real sense of mission? Alexis, we'll start with you.
You know what? I don't think it was on my radar for a minute. And then in 2020, I pretty publicly resigned in protest from the board of Reddit, a company I had founded and was the face of for like 16 years, in large part because I didn't want to have a conversation with my then 3-year-old daughter about why I wasn't doing more to build intentionally and just be better. And what's crazy is literally one of the first things I did after that was start a women's soccer team in LA called Angel City FC, which, that's right. Texas doesn't have a team yet, so y'all better be fans of our team, please. Or I guess Houston, technically. Austin doesn't. Sorry, Houston. Okay, but Angel City has gone on to do quite well and in many ways shape a future that I'm excited for my daughters to inherit. And I feel like I've just been on a blessed run since. And now wanting to build businesses that I can be really proud of is something I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing. And what's fun is it's attracting more like-minded people. And I think especially when times are, let's say, the darkest, it's a real test of what you're about. And I actually, ironically, think these are some of the best times to be building with purpose, because it's not because it's fashionable, because it was for a while. It's not because it's trendy, because it was for a while. It's because you actually give a damn. And I actually think, perversely, it actually makes it more effective.
That's great. Russell, what about you?
Yeah, really good. Well, first of all, you can get that round of applause. I like it.
Thank you. I see you up there. Thank you.
First of all, I'm excited to be here in Austin. This is my first time actually being in Austin.
It's a great city. It's a great city.
Southwest multiple times.
They don't have a team.
So it's good to be here. But going back to your question about why purpose and why we do it, number one, my faith is everything. So much is given, much is required. And I think God has given me the response. He gave me big hands to throw a football for some reason, throw it up to the moon, and let it drop down. But what's interesting is that, really 3 things for me. Number one, my dad. My dad inspired me. My mom. My dad was on his deathbed. I was, a freshman in college. My dad lost his leg. It was diabetes. Stepped on a piece of glass. Leg got, amputated because we got infected. And ever since then, I really said, you know what? I want to make sure I make a difference. My dad overcame a coma. He was in a coma for 3.5 weeks. My mom sings a song called All by Grace in His Ear. Just tremendous faith. And she's singing the songs, and the doctors say, hey, he only has 12 to 18 hours left to live. It was before my first college football game. And my mom's calling me hysterically crying. Says, they're saying they're not going to make it. She calls me back an hour and a half later. She says, you won't believe it. I started singing the song All by Grace to your dad. And all of a sudden, he moved his right hand. I said, move your left hand, move your right foot, move your left foot. And he woke up right in front of the doctors. And so, faith to me is everything. So I can't get down. That's one thing. Second thing is that, playing the game of football, it's the greatest sport in the world because you got 11 versus 11. It's 3 parts, offense, defense, special team. And there's no greater team sport, in my opinion, in the world than the game of football. And what it does, and being the quarterback, being able to lead and everything else, but taking that opportunity, taking the young kid from Richmond, Virginia, where they said he's too short, he won't make it, and beating all the odds and going on to, play 14 years, going on hopefully year 15 for me, God willing. And what's amazing about it is that I wanted to create things that actually had meaning and purpose, to inspire people, to inspire the kid that, I'm not Michael Jordan, I'm not 6'6", I'm not, LeBron James 6'8" or whatever, but I'm a 5'11" kid from Richmond, Virginia, where everybody said I wouldn't make it. And so for me, that was a big piece of it. And the last piece of it, in terms of business, my mom, my dad, they used to always say, why not you, why not you? So we started our Why Not You Foundation. And when we started, when my dad passed away, me and Sierra, I said, and our parents said, have a Why Not You attitude as well. And so when we created the Why Not You Foundation, we said, hey, everything that we build business-wise, we want to implement a give-back component. So I started Good Man brand. Who was the good man? My dad was the good man. But really, Jesus was the good man. And so to me, if God was the good man, and I wanted to create a fashion line around faith and all that and be, affordable luxury for people. I'm wearing Good Man pants, Good Man shoes, for example. And when I created it, I said, I want to have a give-back component. Because what would God do? He wants us to serve and give back. So we had a give-back component. Started off with $3, and now we're international. We do 3%, for example. So that's one piece. The second piece is the 3 brand. 3 brand is my youth sports line. Like we mentioned earlier, it's done extremely well, $400 million in 4 years roughly. And we're going to be launching jerseys soon for youth jerseys for kids, which we're really excited about to partner with Amazon. And what's interesting about that is that 3 brand really doesn't represent me. It represents mind, body, soul. 3 brand, the next generation. And what I really fundamentally believe is that what we're struggling with today is depression, anxiety, worry, stress, right? And I believe sports is the great connector to it all. And boys, girls, men, women, how do we bring, doesn't matter what our race is, it brings everybody together. And I fundamentally believe that the mind, the greatest athletes in the world, the greatest competitors in the world, the greatest business leaders in the world, right, are the people that they can speak to themselves and encourage others, right? But ultimately, you got to speak to yourself first. And that's what 3 brand represents, and that's why we're doing it.
That's great. So let's talk about sports, right? So, when I think of the sports industry, I think of it as like, it's a big competitive industry. There are a lot of big players in it, a lot of billionaires in it. Many aspects of sports can feel really corporate. Why do you both believe that sports is ripe for innovation and reinvention and entrepreneurship? Alexis, let's start with you.
Well, look, I've seen it firsthand now. Obviously, this is the success of Angel City then spurred us to get the first team in Tigers, Team Golf League, TGL, and now just bought the LA team in League One volleyball, and also start a league. Shout out volleyball. Great sport, on the come up.
Yeah.
Big
How
time.
many athletes do we have in the room? Yeah.
Wow, all right.
You too?
All
Good,
right.
good stuff.
And that
Dancer.
counts. Yes, of course.
Dancers are definitely athletes.
Yes.
I must say.
And I've only gotten more conviction, and then also starting a league, Athlos, for track and field in particular. I'm convinced now, especially in this age of AI, that, what I already thought was a great investment 6 years ago when everyone told me no one watches women's sports, and I went viral for all the wrong reasons, people trolling me, insisting it was going to be a flop, I'd lose all my money, blah, blah, blah. I saved all those tweets, and I tweet them back and tag the people every time we hit another revenue milestone or sellout crowd, because I'm that guy. And some other people have learned that too. But I love a scrap. I won't start stuff, but I'll be glad to finish it.
It's your superpower.
Look, again, I got things to do, but sometimes I have time. So the thing I love about emerging sports and the only silver lining to the underinvestment in women's sports is that because it was underinvested in outside of really tennis, there's an open field to just build and innovate. And so that's why you've seen the valuations grow so much. These women had been that great. They were just being artificially held back by the systems, and we can talk about all that. It was a legacy of racism, sexism, business incompetence that was holding back. That's the only reason why they're swinging back as fast as they are. But even on the men's side, now post-AI, right? AI is here, right? Hollywood just had a wake-up call with the Chinese models basically ripping off Hollywood cinematics for a fraction of the price. Sports is going to be the last traditional form of entertainment left standing in 10 years that will still need to have humans at the core. Because watching robots play 18 holes of golf where they all hit hole-in-ones, or watching a bunch of robots line up and play football is never going to move people to tears. It's never going to move people, literally. And so sports is only going to get more valuable and more profitable as we get more investment. And there's a huge opportunity for investment on the women's side. But even on the men's side, there is so much more room to enhance all the experiences, from training to storytelling to the fan experience to in-person, like so much room that technology is actually going to elevate it.
I think that's beautiful. I think also, too, for me, as he was mentioning, live sports, there's nothing like it.
Nothing.
I mean, going to a live concert, watching Sierra, for example, on stage, nothing like it.
That's special.
But like going to a live game, NBA Finals, the Super Bowl, right? We played the Super Bowl at MetLife Stadium in New York. We beat the Broncos pretty good. And I just remember like those moments. I remember coming back home after we won the Super Bowl and going to the city of Seattle, and it was the first Super Bowl we've ever won there. And I just remember there's like 1.5 million people in the streets, and the connectivity, the eyes, the connection, from one to the other. And it didn't matter your socioeconomic status. It didn't matter where you came from, as long as you were a Hawks fan. And that was a special piece of it. And, I think that sports brings people together globally. One of the things I fundamentally believe, too, is, once again, going back to the youth space, getting our kids outside and getting them moving is better for their health, better for their mind. The kids, I always, get on my kids, they're pretty athletic. Future Sienna, Wynn, Amora. Amora's only 2, but she's going to be a baller. But what's interesting is that they're always on their iPads. They're always on their phone. So it's not just the business side that's important, right? It's not just that piece of it. That piece is a huge piece that we're both in heavily. But I think that what's interesting is that it's really the soul piece. The one thing that you can never, necessarily pay for or never necessarily put a dollar amount to is the human connection, the human soul. And that's what we've been passionate about with 3 Brand. That's why, Sierra and I are owners of the Seattle Sounders as well. We were getting involved in football, basketball, baseball, all those sports as well. And I think that's just the piece that I love the most. And throwing a touchdown and throwing it up to the moon and letting, a guy make a big play and scoring a touchdown, the crowd goes crazy, hitting a home run, there's nothing like it, serving an ace,
I know nothing about that.
Yes, but you're related to it.
Yes. By proxy.
But like, there's the feeling of that, the emotion of that. It's special.
I'm curious. So you mentioned like raising kids now and all the screen time they have, and how youth sports is sort of a something that brings them away from that. I mean, Alexis, you were one of the inventors of the modern internet.
Yeah, it's my fault.
In a real way, and you've been thinking about reinventing the internet. But as a parent now yourself, how do you think about the rise of digital culture and where it's going and where it should go?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been an absolute disaster for youth. Jonathan Haidt has written plenty of great books on it. You should read it. And I do look that a lot of things went into my decision back in 2020, and so part of where I spend my time, my resources, my wealth, and attention are in what I hope will be the next wave. I think particularly for young girls, social media has been in just an utter disaster for self-esteem, for all the things. And you can look at the data. I think, look, at the end of the day, I think adults have the freedom to make adult choices. Some will be good, some will be bad. But the part that weighs on me most is a generation of young kids who basically grew up thinking that this was how the world was really oriented. And there is so much good that's come out of it, no doubt. And it shouldn't surprise y'all that if you asked any of us CEOs for the last 10 years how much time we let our own children spend on these things, it was ridiculously low numbers. That's not a headline. Like, you can look at the interviews, Zuck, all of us, we've said this for a decade. And so I don't want to live with that contradiction. And in particular now, I'm more obsessed. And I think there's a new generation of parents who similarly have seen it, are trying to figure out ways, but we struggle the exact same way, where even just having a screen with, I don't know, Bluey, and I love me some Bluey, is really, really, really compelling. And I think the good news is the alternatives that we can make, like creating more access to sport. The downside of youth sports getting professionalized is the fact that it is getting now so prohibitively expensive. And I think that's going to only bring in a new wave of much more accessible paths into sports, and the market is going to provide here. But we need better ways to basically distract our kids elsewhere. And then we also need a new wave of devices. I have seeded one company that is making what I hope is the device that is the antidote to the iPad. And I did it because Olympia would not stop asking me for an iPhone. And she's 8 now, and she's very persuasive. And I was like, you're not getting an iPhone, no chance. And we've tried to make the sort of plan with our fellow 3rd grade parents. And so we're doing our best, Jonathan Haidt, to try to lock it down. But at the same time, I want to create a device that gets her an interface into technology without all the worst mechanics of addiction. And so I think in the next year or two, you'll see hopefully some better answers, because I'm trying to build them.
I think one of the answers to, as you know, and you guys do so well, because we spend a lot of time together when we can. Obviously, he's busy, I'm busy, Sierra's busy, Serena's busy. But I think one of the things is, like, to me, it's the discipline. it's the discipline of being a parent, and to really tell your kids, like, hey, when we're at the dinner table, getting them off their iPads. Because, like, as you mentioned, there's so much good. We always talk about the bad, but there's also so much good, right? The ability, my 2-year-old daughter can do stuff on the computer I wish I could dream of at 15 years old. It's like, what? Like, and my son, Wen, who's 5, like, he knows how to play every game. He can beat me in anything he wants, in terms of video games and all that stuff. But the attention span's what's important. Once again, it goes back to human connection to me. And that's where the game of sports and all that matters. And so I think creating a world, which I want to talk to you about later offline, but I think creating a world where, kids get to see the goodness in the world, the nature, the aspect of each other. There's goodness in each other too. And be able to understand what that looks like, and to be able to search that, experience that, live that, be that, and continue to become that. And I think that's the responsibility of us parents. And I think it's why it's important that fathers are there for their children, especially young girls, boys as well. I think it's important that we show up. As busy as we are, we still have to show up. We still have to lead. And I think that's an incredibly important part. Because at the end of the day, being a parent, there's no better job, there's no greater job and responsibility, and so that's what I love most.
One quickish follow-up to this. I'm curious, what do you make of the proposed legislation in places like Australia to limit screen time for children?
I actually think Reddit is suing Australia to get that stopped. That had nothing to do with that, to be clear. I think every country is going to figure out how to govern itself. It's probably well-intentioned. My hunch is the way it's written, it's probably poorly formed, but I don't know. I do think, one of the things I love about Russ too is you have always been unabashedly a proud father in a way that I think is so healthy for culture. And we talk about the fact that, social media, again, I dogged social media earlier. The nice thing about athletes, business people, everyone having their own platform is we can now normalize messages that wouldn't have necessarily been normalized before. And so the idea of pushing this very simple agenda of how cool it is to be a father is something that I actually think is more important than ever. I wish I had heard more serious alpha business dudes when I was a kid talking about how much they want to kick ass in business and how much they want to kick ass as a dad. Those things are not mutually exclusive, and so many of the highest performers I have now met are exactly that. And again, that's a storyline that I don't remember ever seeing in messaging when I was a kid growing up, and all I saw was yes, do whatever you can to be the best at work, at your career, and not this other side. And I like the fact that the meta is starting to shift, and it's just so damn important.
You both have obviously very demanding jobs. You just alluded to the fact that your spouses have very demanding roles in the world. And so how do you think about then how to invest your time and your money? Maybe we'll start with time. But how did you learn how to invest your time so that you were spending it on the priorities that really mattered?
Yeah, I would say that being strategic, just like any other relationship, I think a big part of it is, when I first met C, first day, I said that.
Tell us more.
Yeah, I know, right? It was the first day we ever got to meet. It's just me and her and little future. And I said, what I really want is an old school kind of love where you can talk and communicate about anything and talk about everything. And I think that's a big part of it, right? Is the ability to communicate, talk, but also plan. So, for example, as you mentioned, we both have busy wives and the world's best at what they do. Mm-hmm. And so what's interesting about that is that us as men and husbands, we have to be the most supportive, right? And to cherish them, and us sit in the background. And we love that role. I think we have more fun doing that. But
except you are a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah. And well, I mean, how many Wimbledon championships? I mean,
23 total.
Yeah, that's a lot. So I mean, there's a lot. Sarah's won a Grammy. There's a lot of, when somebody's trying to do platinum records, win this, and compete at the highest level, it's a lifestyle. And so going back to the point of it all is that we schedule our date nights. Every Friday we'll have a date night. If we can't do Friday, we'll make sure it's Monday or whenever we can. So being intentional there, I do think that having a support team around you, people that believe in you just as much as you believe in yourself is important as well. And I think that's a critical piece to it. And at the end of the day, I think to be able to, that love and life is sacrifice, and understanding that you give your all every day in business, right? In the time that you do that, but also in your time that's true sacrifice. You got to make the decisions of what matters most. And the crazy part is, as much as successful as he is, as much he's made, and as many people's lives he's impacted, me as well, whatever it may be, and kids you see, at the end of the day, when you take your last breath, there's only so many people there. And so when you realize that, no matter if you face cancer, diabetes like my dad, whatever we're all going to go from, time is not forever, right? And life is not forever. So we only have so many days. So how are you going to spend them? And who are you going to spend them with? And why are you spending them with them? And so that intentionality, not just on the business side, but the purpose-driven side of who we are daily, I think matters just as much.
And Alexis, you were saying earlier that you actually have, that Reddit is not your magnum opus, that something else is, and that you're able to then sort of track your time really specifically. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is, too, you said sacrifice. Like, I think of my life a little too much like a video game. I mean, I've built an entire operating system called Cerebro that runs 776, all of our companies, my life. Like, I literally know how much time I spend every week doing various types of work or off the clock. And I pay attention to this stuff, and it's a little obsessive, but the software, that helps make it kind of easy. Because I basically decided once Olympia was born 7, 8 years ago now, there were only two things that were going to matter in my life, and it was the work I was doing and the time I was spending with my family. And the thing that I sacrificed, candidly, as my group chat will agree, is my childhood friends who I've known since I was 6. I mean, these are guys, still my best friends to this day. You know, we used to play a lot of video games in high school and college, and something had to give. And I still have to try to structure time for them, and I'll try to do a boys trip like twice a year. But if I'm being totally honest, right, that was an entire world of my life that I just said, you know what, we're good. And thankfully, almost all of us have young kids. So there is something that has to give. And I think with structure, with discipline, with routine, you just kind of figure it out. And obviously, look, it helps. We have teams, right? I've got 15 people who help make me look good in business. And then I've got nannies and mother-in-laws and father-in-laws and grandparents. Like, we have a squad to help us on the family side. And then my only promise to my kids is that I really try to make sure when I'm on the clock that they know I am there, and that I really lock in. And I'm hoping it pays off. My oldest is only 8, so I don't know if she actually thinks I'm a decent dad. But like, yeah, but like, you know, it's because I take her for a donut or something. Like, I need to give it a few more years so she can really reflect on it. But I said I really believe half the battle is just making that intentional time and spending it well.
And so then how do you think about, this is a group of founders and a business venue, how do you think about then investing money and where you invest money? And through 776, for example, how do you think about, like, this opportunity is a good opportunity, but is it good enough for my time?
Okay, if I'm putting on the business hat, I'm thinking, what is the total value of this thing in the future? Can it be worth billions of dollars? And is this something where, to the extent my daughters will listen to me, when I'm like, hey, look, see that thing, see that like supersonic jet. Like, your dad was one of the first people to believe in that company, and now it exists in the world. That happens to be a pretty cool one. They're not all that cool. And likewise, though, if it's a business, I've never done sports betting. I love it personally. I love it. I do, I can't do it because a lot of the teams I own. I have nothing against it personally, but do I want to build a business that helps do that? I don't need to do that. And I really want to invest through a lens of like, yeah, like you're really proud of this, and so that's the filter.
Yeah, I think for me, in terms of investing and partnering and doing things, is that we got a lot of things that come our way, right? And Sierra's way, my way, and also two things that we create. I always say that, I kind of think about business the same way I play. If 1, 2, 3, 4, time to create if it's not open. And so that's just, creation has always been inside of me. My mom, my dad, they always inspired me rather, and encouraged me rather than discouraged me. So I was 8 years old. My dad would be like, hey, you're 25 years old now. We'd be in the car. He'd be like, you're 25 years old now. Tell me about this business. Tell me what you started. And I'd have to use my imagination. If it wasn't big enough, he'd be like, you can do better. Like, I want to hear something bigger. Like, think bigger. And so that's always been ingrained in me. So going back to that is that when I think about things that I either want to create, invest in, or partner in, I really fundamentally think, number one, is it authentic to me? Number two, is it going to impact somebody's life for the better? And I think the last piece of it is it scalable? If it has those three elements, and it's something that we're very passionate about, and especially if it has to do with the mind, body, and soul, I'm very interested in it. And so for me personally and Sierra, we think about those things, and we're really invested into the youth, into the faith space, and also as well in the family space. Like, I think that the family space, the youth space, the faith-based space, and doing things through technology, through sport, all these different avenues that we can do it in is very important to me.
So Alexis, obviously, you are part of sports ownership, and I want to talk about Athlos in a second. You may aspire to, own part of a franchise someday. I'm sort of curious, with Athlos, what got you excited about that opportunity, and where do you see it going?
So the thing I saw in 19 was the Women's World Cup was coming, and I knew every American was going to tune in. And some of those athletes were already transcendent, Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, and then they disappeared for 4 years. And even though I wasn't a fan of soccer, I knew who they were, and I was going to watch a few matches. So what didn't make sense was why they would disappear, and that led me to start the team. So the Olympics were coming up, and I just did the same thing. And I said, okay, where is there a legacy of excellence in American women in the Olympics where every 4 years everyone's paying attention, then they disappear? And it was either gymnastics or track and field. I love Simone, big Simone fan. But what I loved about track and field was it was so simple and objective. It's the first sport. Gymnastics, we're gonna get some kind of like maybe human judge-free AI, computer vision thing in the future. But I didn't like the subjectivity to it. I liked the fact that track and field was a simple story you could tell in feed, and we had a legacy of American excellence. And once I spent a little bit of time, if you aren't already a fan of Gabby Thomas, who is here in Austin, maybe even right now. I may have hung out with her and her fiance this morning. Gabby Thomas is an Olympic legend, one of America's greatest. And, I called her up, and she just was so bright, so locked in, saw this future, and said, I want to help you build it. And we made her a part owner. Obviously, Sha'Carri Richardson's joined, Tara Davis-Woodhall, right? Some of the biggest names in U.S. track and field. And then we started this league. And so our goal is to build something so these athletes don't disappear every 4 years. When you're watching LA 28, I want you to know there's going to be maybe a dozen other Athlos meets in major capitals all over the world where you can see the fastest humans on the planet. And you don't have to wait 4 years to see their stories and see them be great. And I'm seeing the heat, seeing the momentum. We had CC perform, obviously, at our Athlos in New York, and Russ came and partied with us. It's a spectacle. And I'm so enamored with this sport now, and I hope you all will get a chance. We might be bringing it to Austin. We're announcing 2 more cities this year, so it'll be New York and then 2 other cities. I can't say which, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
But they could be close.
Could be.
Yeah. So, Russell, so you were saying your latest company has grown to $400 million in 4 years. Do I have that right? I mean, that's any company on the Inc. 5000 or any company here would sort of relish that amount of growth. Did that surprise you, and what were the building blocks to that success?
I always think, no, it didn't surprise me, but I always think high first and then work down. That's how my mind thinks. Some people think the opposite, but I like to think about the big picture. So the big picture was this. I said, listen, I think fundamentally, once again, mind, body, soul, I said I wanted to create 3 brands for the youth. I felt like to be able to be the athlete that was really focused on the youth, really particularly, and then also thinking about the jersey space once again for kids, because we'll pay anything for your kids, right? Like if you think that your kid can be the next tennis player, the next Serena, or the next athlete, the next basketball player, soccer, or even if not, you just fundamentally believe you want your kid to get outside and play. I've always believed that. Well, I wanted to create a space, a jersey space for that. I felt like I wanted to partner. I pitched to Amazon this idea. We're on 3 brand jerseys. They fell in love with it. Said, let's do it. We're about to launch it here in the next couple weeks, actually, next week maybe even. And what's interesting about it is that I wanted to be able to print jerseys quickly, but also I wanted it not just be the logo on the outside. I wanted to be the logo on the inside. I wanted to be actually the jersey maker. So me and my good friend Jeremy Lott and the Lott family, we partnered together to do it. And so I think that for me, just really being passionate about sports, being passionate about the youth space. And so as he's done an amazing job, in focusing on the track and field space, we're focused on the youth space and building the world around the youth space. And I fundamentally believe that youth sports is not very organized. So what I want to do is I want to organize. I want to create the 3 brand league. So for example, when Future plays in the SoCal Basketball Classic, there's no branding around it, right? And so what I want to do is I want to create the 3 brand SoCal Classic, the 3 brand Easter Classic, the 3 brand tournament. But also too, in each city, right? I have this vision of saying, hey, the next step for us is creating the leagues where we're in Seattle, we're in New York, we're in Miami, we're in Texas, we're in Austin, and the kids are not just wearing the jersey, but they understand that we're actually passionately creating the opportunity for them to grow. And so I think to create that organization, that operation, is what I'm really passionate about. And to do, obviously, listen, we're part owners in the Seattle Sounders, I mentioned earlier. You know, we're interested in football and these other sports, and I love what he's doing because he's taking a sport that everybody around the world knows. And I believe that Americans are top in the world in track and field.
Oh, yes, we are.
And so when you think about these great athletes, right, is how do you give them ownership? How do you get them the opportunity? But most importantly, it's for the young kid. That's why I love NFL Flag. That's why we're passionate with 3Brand around flag sports for boys and girls, because it allows them to see us NFL players and dream about it. The last piece I'll say is internationally, why I think NFL Flag's important, right? And flag sports for 3Brand as well, is because I'll never forget, I was in China and I was also in Brazil, and the kids were tapping me like, oh, Russell, we love you, we love you. I said, you know, and they said, we love you because you're not the tallest guy in the world, you're more like us. And what's interesting about that is that like, this one girl in Brazil, we went to the favelas and dropped off a whole bunch of helmets, shoulder pads, you know, thigh pads, cleats, all this stuff, right? And as we dropped it off, we were in the favelas playing flag football for an hour and a half with them. And what was interesting, this young girl who I had run a deep post, like a 60-yard post, she ran and got it, dove for it, touchdown. What was cool about it, she ran back and she was telling me the reason why sports, football in particular, isn't as big as it is in other countries as here is because they felt like it's an expensive sport. Because when you think about it, soccer, she said, one ball, one goal, we're good. Football, baseball, I mean, when you talk about baseball, they use a rock and they pick up a stick and use it globally around the world, right? And so how do we make football, American football, how do we make it more global? And that's where I started talking to Roger Goodell about this idea around flag football globally, and they were already kind of thinking about it, and it's been an amazing journey just seeing the growth of football, flag football for boys and girls. It's so cool seeing women's sports, right, and women getting scholarships and being able to open up opportunities as well. So that's what I'm about.
Yeah. Well, last question, sort of lightning round. What strikes me is at a time when so many people are not optimistic about society or about the business world for that matter, you both are very optimistic and have sort of an optimistic take on the world. What's one piece of advice you'd give for everybody here for how to, sort of find the part of themselves that's optimistic and how to nurture it with their business?
Well, I think the first piece is, why not you? Like God created us to dream big. God didn't create us to think small, right? And so a big piece of it is that the people that you surround yourself with, the ideas, the people that you think about, right? And at the end of the day, once again, the faith piece of me is I think about Habakkuk 2:2. In the Bible, it says, write out plain so they can see it and run to it. So write out your vision. If you have a business idea, write it out. Think about it, right? Young kids, I always tell them, like, write out your vision. Go for it. And you know what? A lot of people, you swing and miss. Michael Jordan did too. We all do. And part of being successful is knowing that it's not about the shot that you do make. It's actually about the amount of times that you actually get up from the shots you didn't make. And I think that's an important piece of it. And I think that's what life's all about. So if we can inspire others, I'm a small town kid from Richmond, Virginia. People said I couldn't do it, and I'm still here. And I get to sit next to this guy and this guy too. So we're having fun.
Man, that's hard to follow, dude. I tell you what, I think I'm optimistic because I have to be. I don't know how to operate in a way that is not optimistic, and I think that's a credit to my parents and the mindset frame that they gave me. And I think the way I would explain it concretely is like, there's a whole lot of things you cannot control. And if you find yourself agonizing about something that is not within your control, acknowledge it. You might say it out loud, you might write it down, you might just say it to yourself, and let it be. Because there is literally nothing you can do about it. Focus on those things in that moment that you can control and take the next most obvious step. This happens all the time in business. This happens all the time personally. And I think part of the reason I have a kind of default optimism is because so much of my brain space, I try to optimize to spend working on the things I actually have control over. And I think it also shouldn't surprise us that things like faith have been going up in recent years. And I think these things move in pendulum swings. And I think as the world lost a lot of this, or at least the West, or at least the US, I think it left a hole that other things tried to fill. Flexing on social media, all the other sort of dark parts of YouTube or Reddit or other places. And I think the pendulum is starting to swing back. And at the end of the day, no matter what your faith is rooted in, right, at some level you believe there are things that are just not within your control, right? And then on a micro level, though, there's a decision you can make. What color shoes you're going to wear that day? What email you're going to answer first? Who you're going to talk to over dinner that night? Like, focus on those. And I think it's a lot easier to be optimistic in the short term.
Great. Alexis Ohanian and Russell Wilson, thank you so much for being
here
today.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. That was fun.
Austin, Texas. Good to be here, baby.